Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Thursday, 16th of May 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to the news and sport and business and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening. The Isle of Man has a new bishop. Call her Tricia. Ramsey needs to prove itself, says the chairman. What's happening to Everest Double Glazing? Can you help with a Radon gas survey? And the TT career of Dave Madsen-Mygdal now on film.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Fastamai Christian Jones.
Fastamai, the Bishop-designate of the Isle of Man, has been meeting her future political colleagues during a 2-day visit. It was announced today that the Venerable Tricia will take over the role left vacant by Reverend Peter Eagles after she's consecrated at York Minster in October. 2,000 island homes are going to be invited to take part in a radon gas survey next week, which will be used to create the island's first radon map. It's a naturally occurring radioactive gas which is found in all buildings, but levels do vary. And Manx Care is hopeful it's taken a step forward to reduce wait times for one of its most in-demand mental health services. 8 therapists have achieved their postgraduate diploma awards in cognitive behavioural therapy. In international news now, and Slovakia's president-elect says the country's prime minister has very difficult hours and days ahead after being shot multiple times. Robert Fico is apparently able to talk, but his condition remains critical. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has outlined his first 6 priorities if the party wins power in the general election. They include a crackdown on antisocial behaviour and 6,500 new teachers. And Facebook and Instagram are being investigated over concerns they lead to addictive behaviour in children. The European Commission will look at whether young people are being fed negative content. Those are the Update News headlines, next at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Christian, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. We got occasional strong winds in the west of the North Irish Sea, state of sea. Slight, occasionally moderate later, and the weather this evening. Cloudy with bright spells, intermittent showers coming in on a light to moderate northwesterly. Light winds overnight, minimum is 11 degrees. For Jehenya, possible showers first thing tomorrow, then sunny spells in a moderate northeasterly, becoming light and variable later, up to 18 Celsius, down to 12 through the night. Into Saturday, sunny spells in a moderate north-northwesterly, daylight maximum 16 for Jasan. Tides on the way back in, high water 29 minutes before 8, sunset 18 minutes past 9. Low tide 20 past 1 a.m, sunrise 10 past 5, and the morning high tide at 7:30. There is a delay at Ronaldsway in and outbound on the Dublin flight.
Manx Glass and Glazing don't just do the big jobs. It's easy to repair broken greenhouse glass at Manx Glass and Glazing. For greenhouse glass cut to size, call 674 573.
The Isle of Man's new bishop will be the Venerable Tricia, who's currently Archdeacon and Canon of Westminster and also chaplain to the Speaker of the House of Commons. Tricia, as she likes to be known, tells us a bit about herself and how she came to consider the position on the island.
I've had an interesting journey. My family come from Malaysia originally, but I grew up in Lincolnshire, which is where my father's family are from. And for the last 30 or so years, I've lived in London, and so I'm used to both city and countryside, so that kind of blend of being country girl in the city is kind of my designation. I am a former social worker, and I worked in local authorities, serving people in communities, and then for 20 or so years I've been ordained as a priest. One of the joys for me is that actually I was very happy doing what I'm doing at the moment. I do love it, and I love engaging with the people that I meet and working around the community of Parliament and the wider community and national life. And I've been able to come to the island over the last 20 years or so, and I've used this term as a guest, but actually the sense of being able to come and be part of the community here and really to be known by people and to really get to know people, that's part of the attraction. I think that sense of people who have a real understanding of who they are, their pride in their history and their culture and their place is really significant. So to be able to come and to be part of that and to help serve that community has been the draw.
The chair of Ramsey Commissioners said that the town needs to prove itself to the residents following the outcome of the Tynwald Commissioner for Administration report, as our local democracy reporter Emma Draper.
The Tynwald Commissioner for Administration has ruled that Ramsey Commission is taking too long to reply to a complaint amounted to maladministration. It was lodged about the conduct of board members during a debate on a proposal by a local business to paint a lamppost outside its shop in August last year. The complaint was filed by the husband of the shop owner in the town 4 days after the board meeting, and a response wasn't sent back until the 12th of January. This was sent after a prompt from the Tynwald Commissioner for Administration, Paul Beckett, for a live stream link, meeting minutes, as well as the complaints policy. Chair of the board, Rob Cowell, says the local authority will be learning from its mistakes.
So of course it was hard reading, wasn't it? It wasn't great, and it's never nice to receive criticism. But I think where there is criticism, there is opportunity, and we need to look at our complaints policies and make sure that they're stuck to at all times. I think it's really obvious that the complaints policy is written. It needs to be adhered to at all times. So we can't be expecting the town clerk to be a complaints processor. That is not his job. So if he's busy and things go through cracks, then that's really not acceptable for anybody. But the report was hard to read, but as I said, it gives us an opportunity to prove ourselves and deliver a better service to Ramsey.
The TCA concluded that no loss had been suffered as a result of the debate, but the Commissioner's complaints policy has not been complied with. Mr Beckett added the reply sent on the 12th of January was general and didn't address a number of issues, which left reasonable questions unanswered, and this amounted to maladministration.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The first edition of a new film charting the journey of a TT veteran has been released this week, with hopes it can be made available to wider audiences in the future. Faster Than Life focuses on the career of the rider with the most TT starts in history. The competitor himself, as well as film producers Chip Gulland and Philippe Costa, you'll hear.
So we started the film in 2019, filming, and it's all based on Dave Madsen-Mygdal, his racing around the TT course since the 1980s, and how he started and finished more TTs than anyone. And we filmed him. It started in 2019 through the COVID years and the TT cancellations, and then we finished filming at the 2022 TT.
The main things people are going to get from the film is like it's not just about motorsports, road racing and TT race. It's about like family, it's about love, it's about following a dream. So I think we can reach a broad audience, not just the TT fans.
It's been different. The way we filmed it, it's not rehearsed or anything like that. So it's just takes in different places. I'm not that used to speaking to people, so I don't even like to hear my own voice. So it's been difficult that way. But there's a lot of people involved around in the team at TT Week. I do most of the work myself all the time, but TT Week there's a lot of people helping, and it's a big team effort. It just gives you an insight to, well, maybe just me, but what most privateers go through.
For me, it's the biggest project I've ever done. It's been a great experience, and just having to multitask and get involved in all sorts of parts of the process. It's been great.
It shows the highs and the lows. The highs are fantastic in road racing and the family life of it, but the low side can be really low. I think it comes across in the film.
You can go to fasterthanlife.uk and you'll be able to watch it there. The film story is 100% complete, but we still need to raise finance to polish it off so that we can then take it to film festivals and other networks. So we still need backing.
The Office of Fair Trading says inquiries are continuing in an attempt to clarify the position for customers of Everest Isle of Man Limited after the parent company in the UK fell into administration last month. The details from Simon Richardson.
The Manx company's installation base in Braddon is currently closed. OFT spokesman Mark Smith said he'd received calls from Everest customers concerned by the closure. He's been in contact with the UK administrators today, but had been unable to speak to anybody concerned with Everest Isle of Man Limited. Everest 2020 in the UK went into administration on the 24th of April, the second time the brand has done so. In a previous guise, the company was saved by a rescue deal in June 2020 and rebranded as Everest 2020. Business advisory firm Resolve is overseeing the current process and has so far been unable to find a buyer, though it's understood some assets will be sold to rival Anglian Home Improvements, though the majority of Everest's UK staff have been made redundant. According to Resolve, around 1,500 UK-based Everest customers have unfulfilled orders. The figure relating to Everest Isle of Man Limited isn't known. In the meantime, Anglian have offered to honour orders made by customers with Everest in the UK. A statement on their website claims customers of Everest Isle of Man Limited will still have their work carried out by the Manx company, though a spokesman for the administrators told Manx Radio they weren't aware that was the case. It's hoped the situation will become clearer in respect of Everest's island customers in the coming days.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years, this is Manx Radio.
2,000 Isle of Man homes are being invited to take part in a radon gas survey next week, the results being used to create the Isle of Man's first map of radon, which happens already elsewhere. Radon project leader for DEFA is Dr. Paul McKenna.
I suppose radon gas is something most people won't have heard of, but it's a natural minor component in the air that we all breathe every day. And normally, of course, that's not a problem. But in certain places, in certain buildings, it can accumulate to a higher level, and prolonged exposure to it could be a health hazard. And the real health hazard associated with radon gas would be lung cancer. But you would need many, many years of exposure to a high level for it to be a problem. We don't have a great deal of information about radon gas on the Isle of Man, but we have a working assumption that perhaps 1% of homes might have a radon problem. So we're really trying to get more information to try and find the locations where these houses may be and fix that problem. Devon and Cornwall have a known problem there. They have maybe exceeding 3 to 5% of homes in certain areas that do have a radon problem. Radon's a natural gas that seeps out of the ground from small amounts of uranium that occur in rocks and soils all over the UK, all over Europe, everywhere, and it's associated both with the concentration of uranium in the rocks and soils under the ground of the house, and also the type of construction of the house and the ventilation in the house. So those three factors sort of combine to potentially create a radon problem in a very small number of properties. So the survey is going to be entirely confidential, and it's a voluntary survey, and we're going to invite people that will be chosen by a computer program to see whether they'd be interested in having their home surveyed free of charge.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes before 6, the UK media group Future unveiled plans to return a further £45 million to shareholders today, sending shares higher despite a fall in half-year revenues and profits. The share buyback programme would get underway shortly and would add to the £45 million already returned through buybacks and dividends over the last 6 months. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour has touched down on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, and with it comes the economic boost it brought to cities during its American leg. Not only did Taylor Swift's 4 sold-out Paris shows attract US tour tourists, with Americans making up 20% of ticket holders, but short-term rental and hotel room prices spiked in the French capital. Stockholm's Chamber of Commerce is anticipating a €40 million injection into the city when the Eras Tour arrives there. In the UK, where Taylor Swift will conclude the European leg, a new consumer trend report from Barclays estimates nearly £1 billion economic boost, with concert-goers predicted each to spend £848 on tickets, travel, outfits, accommodation and other expenses. One night at the Eras Tour, according to the Swiftonomics report by Barclays, will cost a ticket holder more than 12 times the average cost of a night out. In 2023, the research company Question Pro estimated that the American consumer spending was boosted by $4.6 billion as Taylor Swift's tour made it around the country. And you thought it was just pop music.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks turned lower as earnings earnings weighed on a relief rally for global markets. The dollar rose, oil extended gains on signs of stronger demand in the US, and gold pulled back as the dollar inched up. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down almost 0.1% at 8,438. The DAX in Frankfurt down nearly 0.8% at 18,722. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.3% at 40,020. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index is up nearly 0.25% at 16,780, and up 0.25% in Chicago in the Midwest. The S&P 500 at 5,321. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 26.7 cents, €1 16.5 cents, and 23 South African rand 7.5 cents. In commodities, gold's down just over 0.1%, $2,382 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude is up 1/3% at $83.13.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Students from King William's College and Ramsey Grammar School took part in a debating competition recently, which saw Ramsey Grammar School propose a motion to scrap the Bishop's vote in Tynwald. The island's independent school had to bring forward arguments against and ultimately won the debate. Kayla from KWC explains.
Ramsey Grammar School proposed the motion. We opposed the motion. Theodore and I, along with another student, was on the team. We argued that while we are not taking away his right for a seat in Parliament and to assist with the debating of bills, his right to vote brings too much of an impartial vote in Parliament when it's supposed to be more about the public issues. We saw this with the abortion bill in 2016. We saw this with the homosexuality and lawful same-sex marriages in 1994, and now with the assisted dying bill that was introduced in 2023 and still being debated. We are seeing this again. So the bishop having a right to vote in Parliament brings such religious and biblical views into, which is a bias that should not be allowed in Parliament, given that he's on the Legislative Council, which is superior to not only the House of Lords but also the House of Keys itself. The census, at least 13,000 people decided not to put a religion on the census, and there are at least 32,000 people who differ from the Christian religion. So while it may be argued that a majority of the Isle of Man is Christian, the bishop only represents one denomination of the Christian faith, which is out of respect to the Catholic or Anglican. There are many other denominations like the Pentecostal. These people, while you don't know what part of the Christian faith it represents, so if you're arguing that the bishop represents the Christian faith, then what about all the other denominations, not only the Christian faith, but also outside of the Christian faith?
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast to my sports editor Rob Pritchard.
Fast to my good evening. Starting this evening with netball, and the Manx Rams have suffered defeat in the opening contest of the 2024 Europe Netball Open at the NSC with a 29-70 loss against a clinical Northern Ireland. The Ireland hosts made a positive start against a Northern Ireland side ranked 11th in the world, with the scores close at 10-16 to Northern Ireland after the first quarter. However, the Rams' opponents got into their stride from there to lead 14-30 at the halfway stage before hitting the 50-point and 70-point marks in the third and fourth quarters respectively. The Isle of Man's next match will be against United Arab Emirates at 7 p.m. this evening. Elsewhere across the tournament today, Republic of Ireland were narrow 48-44 winners over UAE, whilst France opened their campaign with a 36-26 victory over Gibraltar. Currently underway is the latest First Division match between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. In football, the battle for top spot in DPS Limited Combination 2 remains a two-horse race going down to the wire following last night's midweek fixtures in the division. Onken still lead the way on 46 points after a 14-0 hammering of Gyms on Wednesday evening, Glazing. 2 points behind the leaders are Douglas High School Old Boys, with both having 2 games remaining. In the other match last night, there was an 8-goal thriller as Foxdale and Douglas Athletic played out a 4-4 draw. And in motorsport, several defending champions from 2023 will form part of the lineup at this year's Pre-TT Classic Road Races. The meeting's promoters, the Southern 100 Club, says a quality entry has been received in 2024 for the races on the Boulogne course, due to take place from the 24th to the 26th of May. The organisations confirmed among those to compete will be winners from 12 months ago, such as Joe Yeardsley, Barry Davidson, Rhys Hardesty and Keith Shannon. The most popular classes are said to be the Junior 350cc Classic, Senior 500cc Classic and Senior Superbike Post Classic. Elsewhere, officials have been encouraged by entry levels for the remaining solo fields as well as the 2 sidecar races.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
The 5 to 4 inbound Emerald from Dublin. The flight won't be in until 6:20. Next inbound, the 7:25 EasyJet from London Gatwick, 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool, returning patient transfer, and the 10 to 9 Loganair from London City. They're all showing on time. Outbound, that 4 Emerald back to Dublin won't be going until 6:45. Before that, the 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool, and after it, the 5 to 8 EasyJet return to London Gatwick. Those 2 are showing on time. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road in Douglas for window replacement. Part of Switzerland Road's closed till November for building work. In Laxey, temporary lights on New Road near the Lurgy Gorge junction for building work. Temporary lights in Laxey on New Road as well. And lights in Peel on Marine Parade for gasworks. Temporary lights in St John's on the main road between St John's and Ballalease Bridge. In Sandygate, lights on Sandygate Road. They're working on the pavements. Temporary lights in Braddon on Vicarage Road at the Stevenson's Way roundabout. They're digging the road up for water main replacements, and it's a big trench. Temporary lights on Belafton Manor Hill near the Coolferran junction for resurfacing. Water main work at Ballakill Ferrick Road in Colby. Also in Starvey on the Starvey Road and Kindrockard Road in Andreas. Lights on Ballafeston Road in Port Arun for gas repairs. And lights on Glen Helen Road too. They're repairing a wall.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside. And the matrix signs are fine. The Commodore of Peel Sailing Club says he's angry at the decision not to renew the lease on the building after 2028. President Harry Owens and Commodore Roger Cave say they heard rumours of the closure last year and it was formally confirmed in March.
The club was formed well over 40 years ago, so they eventually got together and negotiated with the commissioners to use the Rocket House, as it was called in those days, and still seems to carry that handle. And they got together and agreed that they should be allowed and permitted to do extensive work on it. Basically, they started off with a structure that was like a long brick passageway with an upper part. They built what we call the snug, and they basically made the ladies and then a very, very basic gents, and behind the door a shower, which is a small cubicle, but it was still effective and it worked. They actually made something at the very beginning and it functioned and it attracted people in.
We heard rumours back end of 2023, so I wrote a letter to the commissioners asking for an extension of our present lease beyond 2028. I didn't get a reply until March, categorically stated the lease would not be renewed. We then wrote to all the commissioners asking them to visit the clubhouse. So far we've only had one response, and that was negative. One commissioner actually came in and he had a tour of the building and he was extremely impressed. From what he'd been told, that the place was a wreck, needed new roof, it doesn't, needed new windows, it doesn't, needs the plumbing sorted out, it doesn't. It's just erroneous information that's been put out there, and we're very, very angry.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
A Castletown mum's raising awareness about a rare blood disease that her children have, which causes them to be allergic to the sun. Natasha Chadwick says, as the world marks Porphyria Awareness Week, week, she knows of at least 7 people with the condition on the island.
Their body doesn't make blood the way that it should make blood, and this results in a build-up of porphyrins in their body. That reacting to light causes a chemical reaction in their body, and it causes them immense pain. It feels like their blood is boiling from the inside out, and that can last days and days of unbearable pain. My daughter is now 12 and my son is 10, but when she was 2, we started noticing that when she'd been outside, she'd be screaming and she'd come inside and she'd be crying, but she was only 2, so you could put it down to all sorts of things. But as time went on, we kind of saw this pattern. So they're always in hats and scarves, and they have this really thick cream on their face as well. Long sleeve t-shirts, trousers, socks and shoes, and umbrellas, gloves. They are completely covered up. There are 5,000 to 10,000 people in the world with the condition that Madison and Isaac have. And we've actually, over the years, discovered that there's actually 7 people on the island with the condition, and it's a genetic condition. So because of our genetic pool, we can assume there's a higher rate on the Isle of Man than anywhere. So the camp we're doing is like a 2-day residential. The kids are all going to have little dorms, and there'll be kayaking opportunities and climbing and just the normal things that kids can do. We want to show kids that as horrible as this condition is, and it really does impact everything, you can still do things and stop them from being so isolated.
A mental health sufferer on the Isle of Man is aiming to help others facing difficult times with some walking and talking therapy. Julie Bennett from Mental Health Mates Douglas setting up a peer support group for the first Saturday of every month.
There's no fear, no judgment, and it's just, in our case, hopefully it'll be a gentle stroll along the prom where people can meet with other people, because loneliness is a great problem for people who've got mental health issues. I've had mental health challenges myself in the past. Thank goodness I'm in a good place at the moment. But I thought everybody has mental health. We've all got physical health and we've all got mental health. And I thought if there was a group on the island, I'd like to get involved and walk along and chat to people. And if there was any way I could support an organisation like that, I thought it would be a good thing. So I looked at the website, found the email address, emailed Mental Health Mates and said, was there a group on the island? There wasn't. So I emailed back and said, would it be possible for me to start a group? And yes, it would be. And so they sent me the details. I did it's about 6 or 7 hours training online. And I produced the poster and decided to give it a go. Sadly, first of all, the weather was absolute rubbish. So 4 friends kindly turned up to support me, and that was all that turned up. So I'm hoping for better luck next time. It's always going to be the first Saturday of the month. We're going to meet at the BG statue and hopefully stroll down the prom for 20-25 minutes and then back again, congregate back at the statue, and then if anybody would like to go for a coffee, they'd be very welcome.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Christian Jones, producer Beth Espy. After the news at 6, Fiona McCardle's here with Shackley, greatest hits at 6:30, Morris Bell's Little Light Music, and Mike Reynolds tonight at 10 with After Hours, and I'm back tomorrow at 5:30.
WINT